I want to talk more about these AUMFs. That's the authorized use of military force, and the way that members of Congress have been concerned about the Trump regime using multiple AUMFs as justification for Donald Trump to engage in unilateral military actions outside the United States. Right, so an AUMF is when Congress grants power to the president to engage in a military action without having to invoke war powers, without having to go through Congress. There are lots of limitations on them. I am not a congressional expert. I'm not a legal scholar. I did go down a rabbit hole for hours and hours about them last night. And in doing so, I noticed that there was actually news about Congress acting to try to reclaim some of their war powers by repealing AUMFs back right around Christmas time. And it really didn't get any traction in the press at all. And I kind of can't help but wonder whether or not the regime's action to move right now to attack Venezuela and to kidnap their president was driven by the fact that we're seeing Congress start to get more and more concerned about Trump. They're still pretty much entirely impotent, but maybe there's a little bit of a move there in Congress to try and check some of the authoritarian overreach from Donald Trump. So let me share this piece with you from Roll Call that came out on Christmas Eve. It's entitled, Congress Inches Toward Reclaiming War Powers with AUMF Repeals. New defense policy law marks the first time since 1971 that Congress has repealed a war authorization. Please remember, as you're listening to this story, that Congress is the most powerful branch of government. Congress could have stopped Donald Trump at any point in time. Congress could have started doing their fucking job and flexed their fucking muscles at any point in the last year, and they have failed to do so. And now maybe a little bit, some of them are getting an appetite to actually do their goddamn jobs. So, okay, deep breath. Okay. It took more than 20 years, but Congress has finally flexed a war powers muscle. After several fits and starts, lawmakers this month repealed the 2002 Iraq War and 1991 Gulf War authorizations through the fiscal 2026 National Defense Authorization Act. I know I said this in another video. My husband has pneumonia, so I'm sorry you're going to hear a lot of coughing in the other room. Lots of ways, this has not been a great start to the year for my family. Anyway, okay, it's the first time Congress has clawed back a war authorization since the 1971 repeal of the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, and the first significant war powers measure of any kind signed into law since Congress passed the Iraq War authorization in 2002. Still, the heavier lift of asserting their authority over current military operations remains elusive for lawmakers as efforts to rein in Donald Trump's boat bombing campaign struggles to gain traction. Keep in mind, this was written before Donald Trump decided to attack Venezuela and kidnap their president. Repealing the Iraq and Gulf War authorizations is the beginning of Congress starting to take this seriously, said Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, who sponsored the war authorization repeals. But now let's take seriously the ongoing war that Congress thus far has not taken seriously. I think a lot of us have been pretty ignorant about the multiple ways that Congress has issued AUMFs granting power after power after power to the executive, to the office of the president. And this is why I talked about the 2001 AUMF in a video where I was saying that there may be some legal justification for a veneer of it, right? Like the Trump regime can say, oh, but Congress has granted these powers to the president. He's just following the 2001 AUMF. That's not expressly what the president has said thus far, but we've seen members of Congress be concerned enough about Trump using that as a justification that they're starting to make these moves. And the 2001 AUMF is the most powerful. And so I think they started by repealing the 2002 and the 1991 ones first because they're smaller and less significant. But even so, according to this piece in Roll Call, it took years of negotiations to get Congress to a place where they could vote to repeal the 2002 and 2019 AUMFs. To get these two AUMFs repealed has been an ongoing negotiation since 2020 when Donald Trump used them to justify military operations during his first term. Senator Kaine said, I always feel like the ice melts, but slowly, when asked about the contrast between the repeal of Iraq authorizations and the single struggle to build momentum on the Venezuelan-related measures. On a secret ballot on the Venezuelan question, I know what the vote would be in the Senate. It'd be 97-3 if people weren't afraid of alienating Trump. This, to me, once again, says that Republicans and establishment Democrats in the Senate know right from wrong. They know that supporting Donald Trump is wrong. Republicans do it because they think it is politically expedient or because they're afraid of him. Democrats do it when it benefits the corporate and foreign money that donates to their campaigns and runs them. They know what they're doing. They know right from wrong. Nobody is a fool here. Nobody is acting out of ignorance. And to me, that makes it just like that much more despicable. The Senate has held 2 votes on the boat strike and the Venezuelan strike measures, both of which did not advance, and the House also rejected a similar pair of resolutions. I wonder what they're all going to say now. Is there going to be any more movement? Is there going to be any spine whatsoever from Congress after what has happened over the last 48 hours? Because, Trump and Marco Rubio are threatening to go for Cuba, Mexico, Greenland next. I understand that's blustering. I also understand that Marco Rubio, who is confirmed by the Senate 99-0, all the Democrats voted for him out of deference because he was their colleague in the Senate. He's got his sights set on Cuba, big time. Okay, that brings me to the current effort to repeal the 2001 AUMF, which is led by Washington's Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who is a Democrat, and Kentucky's Congressman Thomas Massie, who is a Republican. That is a bipartisan bill. And I know a lot of people were arguing with me like, oh, Donald Trump can't use that as a justification for any of his actions because it's specifically tied to 9/11. Those were powers we gave to George Bush around 9/11 and fighting terrorists. No, y'all, the problem with the 2001 AUMF is that it does not identify a specific target. It allows the president to identify targets. It allows the president to decide what kind of action is going to be taken. And there's no expiration date on the president's use of those powers. So Jayapal and Massie have put forward what on Christmas Eve was dubbed a long shot bid to repeal the 2001 AUMF. But I wonder how much of a long shot it is now. And I wonder whether we, the people, can be pressuring our elected representatives to support Jayapal and Massie's bill. Pramila Jayapal said, "The American people do not want these forever wars as the Trump administration threatens military force in Nigeria and as they conduct strikes against alleged narco-terrorists. Congress must reassert our constitutional power to declare war to protect our service members and our national security." Everybody's saying what Donald Trump is doing is illegal, what he's doing is illegal. Cool. You know who can stop him? Congress. Congress can stop him. Many of the actions the regime has taken and that Donald Trump took during his first term, y'all, those were all justified because of the way that Congress has given so much power to the president through actions like AUMFs, through expanding Homeland Security, through the Patriot Act. Like we can just go on and on and on about all of the ways we have spent decades in this country handing more and more and more power to the executive. And Congress can claw back, can take back that power at any time. And they are choosing not to. A vote that would be 97-3 has failed because members of the Senate are afraid of Donald Trump. They need to be more afraid of us than they are of him, and then they will vote appropriately to protect the Constitution and on behalf of their constituents. They currently fear Donald Trump more than they fear us. That was the point I was trying to make in my original video about this subject. Conservative Republican Thomas Massie, who is co-sponsoring this bill with Rep. Jayapal, said, "For almost a quarter of a century, this AUMF has been used to justify open-ended military operations across multiple countries against groups and individuals that did not even exist in 2001 and were not connected to 9/11 without any congressional authorization or oversight. Too many American lives and too much American treasure has been expended on these endless foreign conflicts." So what can we do? What can we do as the American people? We can start by pressuring our elected representatives. Organize with your local grassroots group where all of y'all call back to back to back. It's not one call here and there. It's like 500 calls in a week, 1,000 calls in a week. That is what gets the attention of our elected officials. We have to create a dynamic in which they are more afraid of us than they are of Donald Trump, because they know what the right thing is to do. There are members of Congress who are willing to do the right thing. We have to get behind them. We have to lend them our power. Congress can stop this. Congress can stop this, but only if we make them. So how is that going to go moving forward?